It hungers. That's the quiet part I have to say out loud. The forest. It hungers. Most people think that it's quiet. Most people think it can do no harm. But the petrified forest in Utah, there's something about them. They're dead. They're frozen in time. Just stones where trees used to be. But the Escalante Petrified Forest State Park, it isn't quiet. Not if you stay there long enough. If you stay there long enough, it'll make a mark on you. And I guarantee you, you won't like that outcome. My name's Aaron Keller. 3 years ago, I made one of the worst mistakes of my life. The locals call it the curse of the Escalante. I didn't believe in curses then. I think I do now. It started with a simple camping trip. My brother Jake and I had been road tripping through southern Utah, chasing weird roadside attractions for a YouTube channel. Nothing serious, just hiking spots. Abandoned towns, strange local legends, maybe even some urbexing of local mines. When we rolled into Escalante, the gas station clerk mentioned the Petrified Forest. "Are you boys camping up there?" he asked. Jake nodded. "That the trail with all the fossilized trees?" The guy stared at us longer than probably was necessary. "Yeah," he said slowly. "Just don't take anything with you." "Why? Park ranger gonna fine us?" The man didn't laugh. "No. The forest will." We assumed he meant the unusual or usual national park warning. Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you. The old Smokey the Bear crap. But when we reached the trailhead that evening, we noticed something off. There was a wooden display box besides the information sign. In it were hundreds of pieces of petrified wood. Each piece had a small note attached. They were all handwritten. Jake opened the glass panel. "What is this?" I picked up the note. It read, "I'm sorry for taking this in 2008. Please forgive me. Ever since I bought it home, my family has been terribly sick." Another wrote, "My car wrecked 3 days after I took this piece." And another, "Please take this back. I hear knocking in my walls at night." Jake chuckled nervously. Man, people are weird. But he looked unsettled. The display box was full of returned rocks. People had mailed them back from all over the country. We started hiking before sunset. The trail wound through hills covered in broken stone, logs, massive petrified trees turned into colorful crystals. The colors were fantastic, the purples, oranges, and reds. These trees were millions of years old. And the silence out there, heavy, oppressive, like walls closing in. There wasn't any wind, there wasn't any birds, there wasn't any wildlife to speak of. The only sound that was made was the crunch under our boots as we walked. Jake stopped at one point and kicked a small chunk of petrified wood from the dirt. "Dude, look at this." The piece shimmered like quartz. "Imagine this in a shelf at home." I remembered the notes. Maybe leave it, I said. Jake rolled his eyes. You believe this curse crap? He tossed the rock in his backpack. And that's when the wind started up. It came out of nowhere. It was a row rushing for the petrified trunks scattered through the hills. But the sound was wrong. It didn't sound like wind for trees. It sounded like whisper. Jake froze. Do you hear that? The whispers moved across the hillside like a wave. They stopped again, dead quiet. We laughed it off. But the hike back to camp felt longer than it should have been. That night we camped near the reservoir just below the forest. Technically the area belongs to Wide Hollow Reservoir. The water was perfectly still. Jake cooked ramen on a little propane stove while I set up our camera gear. Tomorrow we film the trail, he said. Maybe talk about the curse fang. Clickbait? Exactly. About midnight I woke up. Something had hit our tent. A small tap, and then another, followed by two more. I sat up. Jake. He mumbled half asleep. What? Something's outside. We listened, and then there was nothing. Just the sound of the reservoir and the distant wind. And then the tap. Right on the tent wall. Jake sprang, grabbed a flashlight, and unzipped the flap. The beam swept across the campsite. It was empty. Then the light landed on the ground. Dude. The petrified wood from his backpack was sitting outside the tent. Neither of us moved it. Jake swore he put that in his bag. Maybe it fell out, I said. He shook his head. The zipper was closed. We stared at the rock. It looked darker now, almost wet. Jake picked it up. The surface felt cold, even in the desert night. See? He said. No curse. He tossed it back into his bag, and the tapping stopped. The next day we hiked deeper into the petrified forest. That's when things got worse. The trail climbed a ridge covered in enormous fossil logs. Some of them were 20 feet long. They looked like giant stone skeletons. Halfway up the hill, Jake stopped suddenly. He pointed. Those weren't there yesterday. Three petrified trunks stood upright between the hills. They were like pillars. I checked the photos on my phone from the previous day. He was right. They weren't there. I felt a chill. Maybe we didn't notice them. Jake didn't look convinced. As we walked past the stone pillars, the whispers returned. Right at the edge of hearing. Like voices trapped underground. Jake looked around. You recording this? No. We heard it clearly now. Words forming in the wind. Not English. Something foreign. Then the ground vibrated, just a little. Like something shifting beneath the hills. And for a moment, I swear this is true. The petrified logs around us looked like they were bending. Like the trees swaying in a storm, except they were stone, solid rock. Jake grabbed my arm. Let's go. We ran down the trail. That night, the dream started. I dreamed I was standing in a forest, but the trees weren't petrified. They were alive, towering pines stretching into the black sky. And then something was moving between them. Something massive. Its footsteps shook the ground, and when it stepped into the moonlight, I saw its body was made of bark and stone. Its arms were twisted tree trunks, and its eyes glowed like amber. The creature leaned down and whispered one word. Return! I woke up screaming. Jake was already awake. I had it too. I had the dream, he said. I saw it too. By morning, Jake looked sick, pale and shaking. Dude, we probably should give the rock back. He reached into his backpack. The petrified wood was gone. We searched the tent, the campsite, the trail. There was nothing. There was no trace of it that it had ever existed. Then Jake looked up at the ridge above us and pointed. The 3 petrified pillars stood on the hill again, but now, instead of 3, there were 4. We hiked up there immediately. The 4th pillar wasn't a pillar. It was Jake's petrified wood, standing upright in the dirt, like it had grown overnight. Jake pulled it from the ground. The moment he touched it, the whispering erupted around us. And it wasn't soft this time. It was loud, angry, aggressive, and closed in on us. The ground trembled. The stone logs across the hillside began shifting. They were sliding. They were turning as if everything in the forest was looking at us. Jake screamed, "Put it back!" He dropped the wood, but it didn't fall. It stayed upright, and the ground split open beneath it. Something enormous moved under the earth, something ancient and evil. The hillside bulged like a wave, and then we heard crackling, stone breaking and wood splintering, and a massive shape rose beneath the petrified forest. It looked like a giant made from fossilized trees. Its body twisted with crystal and stone. Its arms dragged across the ground like fallen logs. Its eyes burned like molten amber. It was a guardian of the forest, or maybe the thing that cursed it. Jake grabbed the petrified wood and shoved it into the hole where we found it. "I'm sorry!" he shouted. The creature froze. The whispering stopped. The ground slowly settled, and the giant sank back beneath the earth, leaving the forest silent again. Everything returned to normal. We packed our gear and left Escalante that day. Neither of us said much on the drive, but when we passed the gas station again, the clerk stepped outside. He looked at us and nodded. "You put it back?" "Yeah." The man sighed with relief. "Good." Then he said something I'll never forget. "You're lucky. Sometimes the forest keeps what it takes." Jake still has nightmares, and so do I. But the strangest part happened last year. A package arrived at my house. No return address. Inside was a small piece of petrified wood, with a note attached. It was handwritten. "I'm sorry for taking this from Escalante. Ever since I brought it home, something has been standing outside my house at night." Under the note was a second message, not in ink, but carved into the wood itself. It was one word: return. And every night since that package arrived, I've heard the tapping on my window, like something made of stone is trying to get inside.